First noticed the shift in Alyssa's eyes long before I learned the truth. It was subtle, too subtle for most people, but when you've loved someone for 8 years, you memorize their rhythms. You know their breathing, their pauses, the tilt of their smile. And you can tell when something or someone has changed the way they look at the world. It started with the early mornings. Alyssa used to drag herself out of bed like gravity worked harder on her than the rest of us. But suddenly she was up before sunrise, dressed, makeup done, perfume lingering in the hallway. When I'd joke, "Big project today," she'd just say, "You know how it is," and kiss the top of my head while avoiding my eyes. Then came the late nights. She'd say she was prepping numbers with a coworker. I believed her, at least for the first few days. But soon her stories got tangled. She'd say she grabbed dinner alone, only for her phone to buzz with a message from someone named Logan, asking if she got home safely. She always turned her phone over after that. I try to brush it off as stress. People get tired, overwhelmed, distracted. But the distance between us didn't feel accidental. It felt controlled, designed, like she was gently pushing me away inch by inch. Our routines used to feel warm. Now they felt rehearsed. Morning coffee together became her rushing out the door. Our Friday movie nights turned into her team outings. Her touch, once soft and easy, became rare, hesitant, guilty. I wasn't naive. I just didn't want to believe I was watching my marriage die in slow motion. One night, she came home smelling of cologne that wasn't mine. Not a cheap one either. Some expensive blend of cedar and citrus. Something confident. Something bold. Something worn by a man who wanted to be noticed. When I asked about it, Alyssa didn't stutter. She didn't tremble. She laughed. It must have come from the Uber, she said. But her voice carried a brittle edge that told me she'd practiced that line. That was the moment my stomach sank. Not because of the scent, because of the lie. I didn't confront her again. I watched. I listened. I observed what she didn't realize she was revealing. The way she smiled at her phone. The way she offered excuses before I even asked questions. The way she seemed to crave validation from anyone but me. And always, the name Logan slipping into conversations she swore weren't important. I kept my composure. I'm not the dramatic type. But inside, I was cataloging every red flag, every inconsistency, every late-night message she tried to hide. And yet, through all that, a part of me still held on to hope. I wanted to believe we were just in a rough patch. That she'd come back to me. That this stranger who'd started replacing her warmth wouldn't take her from me. But hope is fragile. Dangerously fragile. Everything snapped the night Alyssa came home glowing. Actually glowing. Like someone else had given her the kind of attention she used to seek from me. She tried to hide her smile. Failed. Then tried to hide her guilt. Failed even harder. I remember standing in the kitchen, watching her pour a glass of wine with trembling fingers, pretending nothing had changed between us. But the truth was leaking through her body language. Excitement she didn't want me to notice. Nerves she couldn't bury. For the first time, I wondered, not if she was cheating, but how long she thought she could get away with it. Later that night, when she thought I was asleep, she whispered into her phone, "I can't stay long tonight. He's starting to notice." That was the moment my heart went completely still. She wasn't slipping away. She was already gone. But if Alyssa thought I would sit quietly while someone else dismantled my life behind my back, she didn't know me at all. Because at that very moment, the revenge she never saw coming had already begun forming in my mind. And it would not be gentle. By the time the second week of strange behavior rolled around, I felt like a guest in my own life. Alyssa floated through our home with a distracted glow, her thoughts somewhere far from me, somewhere I didn't yet have proof existed, but my instincts screamed it did. Still, I played along. I made breakfast. I asked about her day. I offered to drive her to work. And every time, she turned me down with excuses that sounded polished, practiced, prearranged. One Tuesday morning, she walked out wearing a dress I'd never seen before, sleek, black, far more tailored than her usual office style. When I complimented her, she flashed a nervous smile. "It's just for a client meeting," she said, grabbing her coat too quickly, knocking her bag off the counter. I bent down to pick it up. Her phone slipped out, lighting up with a preview banner. "Logan Pierce. Can't wait." Same place as last time. My pulse didn't spike. My breath didn't hitch. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. Cheaters expect shouting and accusations. They never expect silence. So I simply handed her the phone and said, "You forgot this." Alyssa's face drained of color, but she recovered fast, too fast. She kissed my cheek, muttered a thank you, and fled out the door like the house was burning. The second she left, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the grain in the wood, letting years of loyalty, trust, and shared dreams collapse into dust. Something inside me hardened. Not anger, clarity. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Not until I understood every detail of this hidden relationship. And fate, it seemed, was ready to help me. That afternoon, I got a call for Brooke Jensen, one of Alyssa's coworkers. She wasn't someone who usually reached out, so I answered with caution. "Marcus," she whispered, I think you should know something." Her voice cracked. She hesitated like someone terrified of being caught speaking the truth. "It's about Alyssa and Logan. I'm not supposed to say anything, but he bragged at the office today. Said he's taking her somewhere expensive tonight. Somewhere you can't afford." The irony was laughable. Logan didn't know my finances, didn't know my background, didn't know the company I co-owned had just secured a major investment. But men like him didn't need facts. They lived off the illusion of superiority. Brooke's voice shook. I didn't want you blindsided. She deserves accountability. I thanked her calmly. Inside, the storm grew teeth. Alyssa came home late that night, humming. Actually humming. She tossed her heels aside, walked to the fridge, and grabbed her wine like it was routine. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair windblown, just enough to suggest she'd spent hours somewhere romantic, somewhere he made sure she felt adored. "How was work?" I asked. "Long," she said, eyes down, avoiding me entirely. That was her first mistake. Her second came when her phone buzzed behind her, and I caught the name again. "Logan, you look stunning tonight." "Logan, same time tomorrow?" She swiped the message away in panic, but not before I saw the guilt flicker in her expression. "I'm heading upstairs," she murmured. "I'll lock up," I replied. She nodded, relieved. Relief. Another confession she thought I didn't see. That night, after she fell asleep, clutching her phone under her pillow, I got up quietly and sat in my home office. Sleepless. Focused. A war strategist preparing a battle no one saw coming. I didn't want to fight. I wanted a reckoning. If Alyssa had chosen to leave emotionally, she could have at least had the decency to end things cleanly. But lying, humiliating me in public by letting another man slowly take her place, that was something different. That was deliberate. And deliberate choices deserve deliberate consequences. The turning point came 2 days later. Alyssa waltzed into the kitchen wearing another new outfit. This one bright red, fitted, the kind of dress she used to reserve only for anniversary dates with me. She barely looked at me as she dug through her purse. "I won't be home for dinner," she said. "Big client thing. Formal. Formal. A lie dressed in silk. Where's the dinner?" I asked, wanting to hear the lie fully formed. She froze for half a second. The Langford Hotel. A prestigious venue. But Brooke had already told me the truth. Logan reserved a table for two at the Meridian, the most lavish dining room in the city, a place Alyssa had once said she wanted to visit with me someday, when we can afford it. We could afford it. We always could. She just didn't want to go with me. I stepped closer to her, watching her carefully. "You look different lately," I said softly. She tensed. "Different how?" "Happier," I said. "More alive." She blinked rapidly, unsure whether that was an accusation or a compliment. "Work's just been good." "Good," I replied, giving her a smile she thought was real. She left minutes later, unaware I already had the reservation confirmation forwarded to my email moments earlier. Unaware that I called Samuel Ortiz, the security director of the Meridian, a man who owed me a favor from years back. Unaware that by the time she arrived at that luxury dinner, I would already be there, sitting, waiting, and holding the truth she thought she'd buried. The real revenge hadn't begun yet, but it was about to. The Meridian always looked like a place built for people who loved reminding others that they didn't belong there. Gold-trimmed ceilings, velvet chairs, sparkling chandeliers. Every corner whispered money, power, prestige. I'd been there before on business, but tonight felt different. Tonight, every glimmer of light sharpened the anger sitting low in my chest. I arrived early. Samuel Ortiz, the security director, spotted me the moment I walked in. He gave a subtle nod. He already knew why I was there. I trusted him enough not to ask questions. He trusted me enough to know I wouldn't create a scene that put the restaurant at risk. Revenge didn't need chaos. Revenge needed timing. Her reservation is at 8:15, Samuel murmured. We'll keep a respectful distance unless you give the signal. Respectful distance. I almost laughed. There was nothing respectful about what Alyssa and Logan had been doing behind my back. I chose a corner table. Not hidden, but angled perfectly so I'd see her the second she walked in. The waitstaff knew me well enough. They kept the champagne cold, the room quiet, the music soft. A night meant for celebration, though no one at that dining room had any idea what was about to unfold. My hands were steady as I checked the folder beside me. Inside were screenshots Brooke had sent, timestamps from Alyssa's location history, card transactions from dinners she claimed were work meetings, and booking confirmations tied to Logan's corporate account. Not because I wanted to shame her, because cheaters always try to rewrite their own betrayal when confronted. I needed to be ready for every lie she would reach for. At exactly 8:13 p.m., the glass doors opened, and there she was. Alyssa walked inside like someone had lit a spotlight behind her. She wore the same red dress she'd left the house in. Tight, low back, elegant but loud. The dress wasn't meant for business. It wasn't meant for clients. It wasn't meant for me either. It was meant for him. Logan walked beside her, hand hovering a little too close to her hip, grinning at the hostess like he owned the place. He wore a blue suit, the kind guys buy when they want to look rich instead of actually being rich. Confidence radiated off him. Not the healthy kind, but the kind built on thinking no one will ever challenge him. Alyssa glanced around the dining room. Her eyes passed over my table, and froze. For a moment she didn't breathe. Her fingers curled around her clutch. Logan leaned in, as if confused, whispered something that made her shoulders go rigid. Then she turned toward him, shaking her head in a panic. Good. Let the fear bloom. Let her realize the truth finally has a face. I didn't stand yet. I didn't speak. I just watched her unravel, thread by thread. Logan followed her gaze and spotted me. His smirk faded. His jaw tightened. He straightened his tie like he was preparing for a competition he hadn't expected to enter. They approached the hostess stand, whispering urgently. Alyssa kept looking at me, eyes frantic, searching my expression for any clue of how much I knew. I held her gaze calmly. Calm is scarier than rage. Calm tells someone you've already accepted what happened and planned the consequences. The hostess led them toward their reserved table. They had to walk right past me to get there. Alyssa's steps faltered with each inch. Logan, trying to look unaffected, puffed his chest slightly, but even he couldn't hide the flicker of doubt in his eyes. When they reached my table, I folded my napkin deliberately and stood. Marcus, Alyssa whispered, voice trembling. What are you doing here? Having dinner, I replied evenly. You, she panicked, rushing words together. This is a client thing. I didn't know you'd. A client thing? I echoed. Strange. Because your company doesn't have any accounts that hold formal dinners here tonight. Her face drained. Logan stiffened. I tilted my head. Should I be congratulating you both? It seems like you've been making frequent reservations together. Logan stepped forward. Look, man, there's no need to twist this. Alyssa and I work closely. That's all. A lie delivered with confidence is still a lie. I didn't blink. So closely, I said, you forgot to delete your messages before she came home last week. Alyssa gasped softly, covering her mouth. I didn't raise my voice. Not once. That alone made the surrounding tables lean closer. Marcus, please, she whispered. Not here. We can go outside. No, I said, my voice low but firm. Outside is for misunderstandings. This is clarity. I lifted the folder and set it on the table between us. Logan's eyes darted to it. He swallowed. Alyssa's lips parted in horror. She knew exactly what was inside. She reached out as if to touch my arm, but I stepped back. Her hand hovered in the air, shaking. Marcus, she pleaded. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I finished. Or to be caught. Her tears spilled immediately, a desperate shake of her head, a soft, broken sound escaping her chest. But guilt wasn't enough. Apologies weren't enough. Not after months of deceit. Logan tried again, his tone sharpening. You can't just show up here and accuse people. I cut him off with a single quiet sentence. Security knows why I'm here, Logan. and they know what you've been doing. He froze. Every ounce of false confidence drained from his face. Alyssa looked at him with disbelief, finally seeing how quickly he crumbled when consequences arrived. Just then, Samuel stepped forward discreetly from across the room, waiting for my signal. But I didn't give it yet. This moment wasn't about escorting anyone out. Not yet. This moment was about letting the truth sit heavy on the table between us, and showing them both that the humiliation they tried to bury me under was only the beginning. Because the real revenge hadn't even started. Alyssa's breathing grew uneven, her mascara already smudging as she looked between me and Logan. Two versions of her life staring right back at her. One she'd thrown away, and one she'd foolishly believed would protect her. She reached for the chair beside me. "Marcus, please. Let's talk about this at home. I can explain." I lowered myself into my seat slowly, calmly, refusing to let her rewrite a single piece of what she'd done. "Sit with him," I said quietly. "That's where you've been all along." The entire dining room went quiet, forks suspended midair. You could practically hear the chandelier humming. Logan cleared his throat. "This is getting ridiculous. She doesn't have to sit anywhere. She and I, our relationship, isn't your business anymore." I leaned back, steepling my fingers. "Then I assume you won't mind what happens next." His posture faltered. "What does that mean?" Before I could answer, Morgan Tate, the company's HR representative, stepped into view. She'd arrived exactly when I asked her to. Dressed sharply in a charcoal blazer, hair tied back, she looked like the embodiment of accountability. Alyssa's face crumpled the second she saw her. "No," she whispered. "Marcus, what did you do?" Morgan approached with a grave expression. "Alyssa, we received several anonymous reports concerning inappropriate workplace conduct between you and a contracted consultant." Her gaze slid to Logan, who stiffened. "The board reviewed the messages, expense reports, and travel logs." Logan's voice cracked. "You can't just... This is a misunderstanding. Your consulting contract," Morgan continued, "is terminated effective immediately. You'll be escorted off the premises after this conversation." A murmur rippled through the room. Even the servers froze mid-step. Alyssa clutched Logan's arm. "They can't fire you. They can't." But Morgan wasn't finished. "As for you, Alyssa, there will be a full investigation. Until then, your access to all internal systems is suspended." Her body folded like her knees couldn't hold her weight anymore. "Marcus, why would you?" I finally stood. Not angry. Not loud. Just done. "You humiliated me quietly for months," I said. "So, I decided to let the truth speak loudly for both of us." Tears streamed down her face. "I made a mistake." I shook my head. "A mistake is once. This was a routine. A choice. A pattern." Behind her, Samuel signaled his team. Two security officers approached Logan, who took a shaky step backward. "This is insane," Logan snapped. "I'm not going anywhere. Alyssa and I..." "You and Alyssa," I interrupted, "are free to go wherever you want. But not here." Samuel stepped forward. "Sir, please come with us." Logan's confidence evaporated completely. As they guided him out of the dining room, tables whispered, soft, shocked gasps following him like a trail of smoke. Alyssa reached toward me with trembling fingers. "Marcus, please. I still love you. We can fix this. You're my husband." I looked at her hand, then at the woman attached to it. The same woman who once promised honesty. The same woman who whispered into another man's phone, thinking I was asleep. The same woman who smiled coming home from a night that wasn't meant for me. "You had a chance to fix this," I said softly. "The night you chose someone else." She sobbed harder. "Don't leave me like this." But she didn't realize she'd left me first, long before the meridian, long before the lies stacked up, long before the truth arrived in the form of a message she forgot to hide. I placed the signed separation papers on the table between us. "I'm not leaving you," I said calmly. "I'm letting you choose the life you already picked." Her hand hovered over the papers like they were made of fire. "Marcus, don't do this." "I already did," I replied, "and it's the one thing you can't undo." When I walked out of the meridian, the air felt colder, cleaner, like the world finally had space for me to breathe again. Inside, Alyssa stayed frozen at the table, staring at the man she'd burned her marriage for being escorted out by security. For the first time, she wore the expression I carried for months. The realization that the life she thought she controlled had slipped completely out of her hands. And that was the real revenge. The moment she understood I was never the one who lost anything, she was